wash my soul in the ocean, in the tears of God, I let it go.
Hello, my astrology family. This is Lada from astrolada.com, and I'm so grateful that you chose me to be your guide through the year 2022. It's a number 6 year, numerologically 222, which is the number of Venus. Is more harmonious, is more full of love. It's also a number of family, of caring. So there's more gentler energies in 2022, but astrologically is quite an excitable and very happening year. The good thing is that we have the two major players, Saturn and Jupiter, in their own signs. Jupiter most of the year will be in a sign where it feels much happier, in Pisces, and Jupiter is freedom. Jupiter is our ability to grow spiritually, to feel joy, while in 2021, Jupiter was mostly all the time under the influence of Saturn conjunct with it. So all those things that Jupiter represents, like freedom, like joy, like abundance, they were limited because Saturn is way stronger where Jupiter was in 2021 in Aquarius. So all those Jupiterian things like freedom, ability to travel with Jupiter, and ability to have faith and optimism might have been suppressed in most of us, or let's say pretty limited for the whole world. But now Jupiter will mostly goes away from Saturn in 2022, and even further it will move into Aries. We'll speak about that. So, and in signs where Jupiter is stronger, so humaneness is Jupiter. People helping each other, goodness will expand that year. And this survivalist instinct will kind of take a back step. Saturn will continue to be extremely strong and its most powerful sign in Aquarius. So it continues to be an amazing time to build foundations that can last very long. But still, Saturn being very strong means that there are a lot of limitations, but we'll get into that deeper. But still, when we have the two major players, Saturn and Jupiter in their own signs, just to give you the heads up, all of you, no matter what sign you are, you can build something. And not only this, Saturn allows you to build something. Jupiter allows you to expand it, especially in Pisces, without boundaries. In Aries, when it moves, to move forward with courage and passion. So this will be some of the generally for everyone. And there's something I remember my beloved teacher, Nicola Stojanovic, said, oh, when Jupiter and Pisces are in their own signs, the houses that they rule, the areas of your life, they get fulfilled. They give their natal promise. So he even made a prediction there'll be a lot of weddings the last time this happened, that Jupiter and Saturn in their own sign, and a lot of people starting new careers, and it all happened indeed. So we have a similar situation now. It's a little bit like 2019 when Jupiter was in its own sign, Saturn was in its own sign. So things were going very smoothly till the very end, until Jupiter left its own sign and went into Capricorn. So anyway, going back to it, I will lead you through the intro, what you have to do here. But I want to start with a little prayer so we can invite the highest possible energy. If you can join me, you can turn to whatever divinity, whatever higher power you have. For me, this is Christ. For me, this is God Creator, the Mother Creator as well, and all the saints and all the ascended masters and angels that are taking care of humanity. Dear beloved, loving, benevolent Creator, thank you for the opportunity to serve you. Thank you for all those wonderful people that you have gathered around together in this beautiful community of love. Thank you for this opportunity to reveal to people your will ahead. And I'm calling you with a plea. Please send many healers in this present space, many high-level astrologers from the other side, many wise souls and spirits and ascended masters and guardian angels, so they can give me the information, and they can give the inspiration and the healing energy for everyone who is involved here, the right information to reach to the right souls, to the right person, everyone to receive something that is not only healing, that is uplifting, that allows them and helps them to navigate the year 2022 with most awareness, most love, most kindness. And even if there are difficult moments, because everyone will have difficult moments in their life, please let this message uplift the souls and the hearts of the people that listen to it throughout 2022, and help them align to your will and do whatever the highest good is for everyone. Thank you so much. Allow me to be a channel of love, of wisdom, of truth. Come inside me and work through me, and may everyone that is involved here feel the uplifting love of your presence. Amen. Thank you so much for joining me. I always get very emotional when I pray, but when it's together with you, it's even more powerful. And I want to tell you what you need to do to listen to those videos and get the most out of them. I would recommend, if you can watch the sign of your ascendant, sun, and moon, it will be best. But if you can't do that, at least listen to the ascendant sign, which is always the ascendant sign, is the sign that was rising on the eastern horizon when you were born. And that was the sign through which the soul incarnates. And this is the main theme of the incarnation of the soul in this lifetime. So, and because the ascendant sign indicates your physical body, so it's the one that manifests, the predictions from the ascendant sign manifest the most tangibly, because this is the most physical part. The ascendant sign is the body, the vessel. So these are usually the predictions or the forecasts and the trends that are most, let's say, embedded in stone, kind of written in stone. And then listen, if you can, also to your moon sign, especially those of you who are women, because the moon sign is a feminine planet, corresponds to the women and more emotional beings. So even men who are in touch with their feelings strongly, the moon, because the moon is your subjective reality, how you perceive what's happening. And very often when I do a horoscope for a client, they'll describe what's happening in their life from the moon, taken as the first house, taken as the sign that we're checking everything from, because this is how you perceive reality. Actually, sometimes tangibly on the outside, something might be happening, but emotionally a person might perceive it in a very different way. So how you feel about your life, which is probably the most important thing, is the moon sign. So do check it. I personally resonate very powerfully with the moon, being a woman, plus I'm born at night. So if you're born at night, meaning that the planet, the sun, was below the horizon when you were born. So you have to check on the day you were born, what time the sun set. And if you were born before that, after that, or before it rose, so when it was dark, before the sun showed up on the horizon, it means you're a night birth. Then the moon becomes the main divinity, let's say, the main ruling, because the sun and the moon are the two, king and queen. So the light that rules your life becomes the moon. So do check your moon sign if you're born at night, whether you're a man or a woman. Then I want you to check your sun sign, especially if you're someone who is more career driven, more people that, because the sun corresponds to our conscious plans for ourselves, our conscious actions. It's the spirit inside, basically, and our hopes and dreams and goals for our life. And especially if you have the sun in a stellium, for example, also Mercury and Venus is there. If some of you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. The sun sign is the normal sign everyone knows, like, oh, I'm born in March, I'm most likely Pisces, for example. This is when you say, oh, I'm Pisces, I'm Virgo, this is your sun sign, where the sun was when you were born. And the sun sign is most powerful also for men. Always check it if you're a man, if you're a woman very strongly involved in career and worldly pursuits. And also if you're day born, it means when the sun was above the horizon. Say if you're born at 6 o'clock when the sun was just rising, the sun becomes your divinity, your light, until the moment the sun sets. So check out what time you were born and calculate if you're day or night birth, So basically check the three signs if you can. If you don't have the possibility financially to do that, or the time. Start with the ascendant sign and then choose at least the sun and the moon, depending whether you're night or day birth. How can you find out your sun, moon, or ascendant? It's very easy. I'm going to show you how to do this through my birth chart calculator. And I want you to take a pen and paper and write down the sign and the degree of your sun, moon, or ascendant. Already at least 15, 20,000 people watch those videos yearly. If you're one of those, you know already everything. If you're new to this, into my astrological forecast, which are done in a way that is way more closer to real astrology than just sun signs, I'm going to share my screen with you. There you go. So go to astrolada.com. I don't want to end the meeting. Astrolada.com, go here and find the free birth chart. Click on it. This will appear. Write your name. For example, I'll write mine. Write your month, day of birth, the year of birth, the time of birth. It uses AM, PM, the minutes. If you don't know your minute of birth or time of birth, you don't need to put the seconds. Just listen to your sun sign, because we cannot find your ascendant or your moon sign, which are more personal predictions than the sun sign most often. But you cannot find them without the exact time, because they're way more specific. And then put your country of birth. Here I'm doing mine. And put your town of birth. If you can't find your town of birth here, put the nearest town within 100 miles or something, the nearest bigger town. Or you can go to another birth chart calculator like astro.com, AstroSeek, and continue. So you'll get this chart. By the way, you can see if you're day or night birth, if you find the sun, here is the sun, SU. If it's below this line, you're night birth. If it's above, that's above the horizon, you're day birth. Now don't look at those charts. I want you to go to planetary details and get those first three ones, ascendant, sun, and moon. Write the degree. You don't need the minute after that. The minutes are, but you can write at least the approximate degree. 2 degrees ascendant, sun 23 degrees, moon 24 degrees, but write the sign as well. Ascendant, 2 degrees Aquarius, sun 23 degrees Aries, moon 24 degrees Leo. These are mine. That's all you need to do. Or if you're just going to watch the video of your sun sign, if you've bought this, just look at your sun sign, but write down the degree. Because I'm going to be speaking in degree, so this video makes sense to you. I'll be mentioning from this degree to this degree. I'm not talking in days. I'm going to be talking in degrees, because in days is never as correct. Sometimes you might be born this year. If someone is born on the 15th, for example, of October this year, the degree might be 23 degree. But if next year, that might be the 25th degree. So I want to work with degrees. Write it. And if you have time, listen to 3 of those predictions, because you'll get so many valuable insights from the 3 different predictions, even if they're clashing. Like sometimes one prediction can say the opposite of your sun prediction. So for example, your moon prediction can say the opposite of your sun prediction. You'll notice that they play on both levels. You'll notice one and the other, because we are very multi-layered and complex beings. There we go. So write those down, and we're going to start one by one with the 12 signs. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited to be with you on this journey.
Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising 2022. And we're going to start with the 3 most important positions of Saturn, Jupiter, and the nodes of the Moon, because they give the overall picture for the year. They will show the most important lessons and areas of activity at the background of which everything else is happening. And that's why I love to start with those. Always I start with Saturn, because it's the hard taskmaster. Wherever Saturn goes, this is where the toughest lessons, let's say, are. And this is the slowest going lessons, because Saturn has been in your 4th house. This is Scorpio, 1, 2, 3, 4. Saturn has been in your 4th house for the last 1.5 years almost, for part of 2020, the whole 2021, and it continues to be there in 2022. The whole 2022, and that's the last year Saturn will be fully just in your 4th house. And so maybe a lot of the things that I'll tell you, they're already happening in your life. My little baby boy is Scorpio moon and Scorpio rising, he's double Scorpio, so he really felt in 2022 the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. They were together basically in the 4th house of Scorpios, and we relocated because 4th house is to do with place of living, accommodation, family. So we had one huge change that happened that he experienced. Maybe some of you are Scorpio rising or Scorpio moon, to a lesser degree Scorpio sun, but still possible, experience some big change in their living environment, in their family, home, place of living. But those changes continue. But this time only Saturn. 2021 Jupiter was helping the situation, moving it along. Now only Saturn stays, and Saturn tends to slow down whatever area of life it is transiting. This is the nature of Saturn. So if, for example, if some of you might be doing reconstruction or renovation of their homes, and Saturn is a great master builder, so this is a good time to do such matters. Even my son, who is only 4 years old, he's been putting chairs together with us, he's been selecting furniture, putting furniture together, moving it around. So he's definitely feeling the hard work that Saturn requires in the 4th house. In his case is by doing things at home, helping us with home matters. But for you, it can definitely indicate that while Saturn is in the 4th house in 2022, for example, if you're doing construction work or trying to sell or buy property, Saturn can make it more onerous, a bit more difficult. Sometimes it can slow down this process, but only so you can do it more masterfully. So don't get frustrated if such jobs going slower than expected. The builders tell you 3 months, it ends up being a whole year. Or you're expecting to sell or buy a property, but it kind of something is blocking it. You have to redo something, fix something, change something, or because with Saturn you have to try over and over till you make it. Saturn is the planet of repetition. So anything connected with home, property, gardens, land, real estate of any sort, you will need to, maybe it's not going to happen from the first time and at the deadlines that you're expecting. It might be longer, you have to redo a few things, especially when Saturn goes retrograde from June the 4th to October the 22nd. Things regarding property, home, place of living, and real estate will get a bit delayed, slower, more burdensome, with a few hoops to jump around and problems to overcome. But the final work will be very masterful because Saturn is in its own sign. So the final result will be very good quality, whatever you're doing around the home, about the property, whether you're selling or buying, despite of the delays. And if you're someone who is in a career that is connected to real estate, land, buying and selling of vehicles as well, you can have a very busy or very year where you have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of work, maybe even a larger workload than normal. Maybe even taking on some extra responsibilities at this field than normal. But 4th house symbolizes other careers as well. If you are in nursing, where you're taking care of elderly or children, because 4th house is very much like a mother house. So a lot of you might notice responsibilities if you have a career connected to catering, even hotel industry, where you give to someone because it's like a house. The 4th house is house property. Hotel industry, catering industry, food preparation of some sort, even restaurant businesses, You can expect heavier responsibilities, some obstacles to overcome, and by little to clean them all up. And you might need to streamline such businesses of caring, nurturing, or if you have nurseries taking care of little children, like where you take a parental role of some sort. These are all fourth house careers. So you might, if you have such a business, there might be some obstacles there to overcome. It is Saturn after all, that you might need to do some streamlining, some kind of prioritizing with your business, restructuring of such fourth house business, and organizing it better, simplifying it in some way, but the responsibilities will be growing. But otherwise, if you're not in such business, you're just normal Scorpio, this fourth house can indicate that you're going to have some extra responsibilities regarding your family, and regarding, for example, a family member. Sometimes, in the worst case scenario, or the more difficult case scenario I've seen, is someone who has to take care of their parents, or a parent that has a problem and they have to help them. Most often the fourth house is the mother, but sometimes it can be either of the parents, and sometimes it can indicate a problem that you're going through with one of the parents in your relationship. And this problem can even escalate to if the relationship is really not good, it's it's too authoritarian, or it's too uneven. It can indicate that some of you might end up a relationship with a parent. Some of you might disconnect, or certain family members will be, the relationships will be restructured with certain family members. And Saturn is an aloof, cool planet, so they can be distancing from certain family members, especially if the relationship is toxic, because Saturn likes to build barriers. And if you're someone whose family or close family members have been taking advantage of you or neglecting you, those problems will escalate, and you might want to distance yourself somehow, or you might want to put certain barriers and walls and say, enough is enough. These are my rules. If you don't follow my rules or don't respect my demands, I'm not gonna be in your life, So that's one of the more difficult ways it can play out. But Saturn wants to teach you to build your walls of your own castle that keeps your own, the fourth house is your own emotional needs. So you're learning to build a structure to protect your own needs and take care of your own needs. And if someone is neglecting them or overstepping those boundaries, you'll be quite harsh at moments, I believe. And you would reconsider those relationships with those close family people, On another level, it can mean that a parent of yours is going through a tough period and you have to help them in some way. When my husband had Saturn transiting his fourth house, I can give you an example. His mom was living with us. And there were some problems. She was going through menopause and she was emotional up and down. So we were going through for 2.5 years of, and she was having a lot of job problems. She kept quitting her job, and so she had to come and live with us. We had to take a bit more responsibilities for her, help her with money, and so on. So it wasn't so bad, He got to get to know his mom a little bit more. So it's not necessarily that something horrible will happen, but for some of you it might be a heavier responsibility towards a parent. Also during that period, while Saturn was in my husband's second house, we had 2 babies. Not second house, fourth house. So that was the new responsibilities he had to take about becoming a parent. And actually, the first 2 years when we had 2 babies, he was the primary caretaker because I was working a lot. So he was suddenly from a single guy, he's a guy with 2 babies that he has to feed, that he has to change diapers. So very heavy responsibilities with parenting sometimes. But parenting is never, it is difficult, but it's what the reasons are, So it's, and usually when Saturn is in its own sign, we take those responsibilities in stride. We know it's necessary. They don't feel so burdensome and heavy. We fulfill them with more dignity, without complaining so much, because Saturn in its own sign does not complain so much when it's transiting there. So for some of you, might be the responsibility of taking on starting a family, for example, putting roots. Saturn in the fourth likes to help you to put roots, deep roots, to put a foundation in your life through family, through property, through place of living in some sort. So many times people take on extra responsibility through a property, whether they're fixing it, whether they're buying it, whether they're trying to do something with it. So these are the things, and I'm telling you, the final result can be quite positive. And you'll probably see the final result when Saturn moves out of Aquarius by 2023, because then Saturn gives it its gifts. But some of you might decide, for example, to invest in property. That's another way it can play out. Some of you might decide to relocate somewhere. Saturn as well does that. Some of you might even move away from your place of where you are originally from. That's why you put distance between you and your roots. Others might use that time to really investigate, study deep their family roots, their family history, find out more about their past, about their childhood, about their ancestors and family, take a hard job or undertake some task of compiling a family tree, for example, because Saturn is a planet that wants you to dig deep, put efforts, and also work on the family karma. What does it mean? Wherever Saturn goes, it's about hard work, and it's about paying off karma. And the fourth house is the ancestral karma. And you can become aware during that time about some family secrets, for example, from the past, or start becoming aware and noticing that the patterns of your family, how they're affecting you. As for example, your grandmother got divorced, your mom got divorced, and a divorce happened in your life too. So you're starting to think, I want to heal that family karma. I want to take control of the situation and cut, because Saturn is about cutting the connection with such family karma, or paying off a family karma even. And sometimes we pay a family karma by taking care of a parent, or we can cut a family karma because you pay off a debt to a parent. Saturn rules debt, so pay off a debt to a parent. Or something to do with property. Or you can cut family karma in a very different way, where you kind of distance yourself from the family, so those patterns don't influence you so much. That's why I said it might sometimes, I've seen it often, that people disconnect from a family, and other times it's just working with a psychologist, for example. Fourth house is a very psychological house, because these are the memories of our childhood, and this is how our life was in early childhood. And as you know, this influences our life because it's the foundation. The first 7 years of our life is the foundation for our future. And as you can see, this fourth house is at the bottom of the horoscope, where everything else is stepping on. So now you have the hard task, while Saturn is in the fourth house, to work on those patterns, karmic and family repeat situations, to realize what they are. And once you become conscious of them, to gradually, every time you are in a similar situation, to remember that, and to just being conscious of it, you start changing it already. But the changes with Saturn don't happen fast. Don't expect that overnight you can finish a family karma of poverty, or family karma of divorce, or they're different. Just look at you start noticing, and you probably are noticing already, what repeats always in the generations in your family. What is it similar between you and your mom, or your dad, or your grandmother, or great-grandmother? There is usually something that repeats, like a belief system, like a circumstance in life. And you might be working with a psychologist to reframe that, and to realize, I'm not my family. And a lot of the work is forgiveness. to accept. You know, the high vibration of Saturn, the low vibration of Saturn is resentment and ignorance. And because of ignorance, not recognizing something, we keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. But the high vibration of Saturn is to realize something with detachment and to accept it. So the high vibration of Saturn is acceptance. So you realize, so instead of being resentful that, what comes from your family lineage, and because my parents didn't give me good education, or because my parents were fighting all the time, now I have the same, they fucked me up, now I have the same problems in my family, and so on. Or my parents were losers, and I think I'm a loser too now. They never taught me to believe in myself, or they told me I'm good for nothing, I'm never, or whatever. They spoiled me, my family spoiled me, and they never taught me anything. Instead of blaming, just the important thing with Saturn is you recognize the pattern where it's stemming from, and you accept, and you say, thank you, mom and dad, no matter what you did, I accept it. You did the best you could with the resources and the abilities you had back then. I'm accepting that, I'm accepting it and becoming detached acceptance, and without the resentment. And you accept that, and just the mere action of doing that, the healing process starts. But the healing takes longer, might take till the end of 2022 into 2023 for you to see that you've discontinued some karmic repeat pattern. And also some secrets from the past can come out to the surface, which are a bit painful for you to recognize them and to work through them. It can just happen of you being aware. You don't have to do something consciously working on it. Just becoming aware of it is a process of accepting it already, and somehow allowing it to work through your life. Okay, so these are some of the psychological influences of the fourth house, but it can feel, because the fourth house rules our emotions. How do we feel? When Saturn transits the fourth house, we can feel a little bit more emotionally sad, let's say, or disconnected from our feelings, because that's the heart chakra there, the feelings here, the gut area of the stomach. So you might feel a bit of loneliness sometimes. It is normal when Saturn transits there. And again, as I said, it can, the external manifestation usually is people start relocating, start process of building something, property and so on. But I said these things already. And dealing with the past family. But you see, there's something interesting that's happening. For the past 14 years, since Saturn was here, up there in your horoscope 14 years ago, it's been moving downwards. So it's moving downwards. But this is the bottom of the horoscope. And once Saturn is in the fourth house, from then on, it will start moving upwards for the next 14 years. Especially if you're Scorpio rising, you'll notice this so powerfully. So when it starts moving upwards, it means that it's the lowest point, so to speak, and you're starting a 14-year period where you're going to be climbing up socially more and more and more. You're coming out. But now you need to do the groundwork psychologically in your subconscious to deal with the demons from your past and childhood, from the pain from your past and childhood. Very likely it's going to be good to use a psychologist or just some psychological books, and or to reminisce, to think on such the past, on forgiveness, on fixing the karma with the parents, even if the parents were abusive. You cannot be successful in your life if you don't respect your mom and dad or forgive them and accept them in some way. Even if they were the worst you can imagine. They left you, they beat you up. It's just the image of the parents as projection of the creator, just because they gave you life. Even if they abused you badly, that you need to find peace within yourself. And that's the hard work of Saturn in the fourth house, to give you this deep psychological foundation where you clear up the past, where you starting almost like kind of on a clean slate, so you can, on a secure foundation, So you can start climbing up towards big successes in life, towards more visibility in life. But this process feels more introverted, more introspective, more emotionally hard. But it is, they're good stuff. We'll speak about the good stuff about Jupiter as well. But this is one of the big lessons of Saturn in the fourth house. Also, the fourth house rules the breast and part of the lungs. So I've seen funny things when Saturn transits the fourth house. Women reduce their breasts, for example. Funny. Or I've seen, women become mothers and they're breastfeeding, and Saturn means something heavy, so their breasts are heavy with milk and they have the responsibility to feed the children or the child. Or also it can indicate you have to be careful with especially because the sorrow, Saturn can, in the fourth house, can make one feel sorrow, emotional sorrow. So it can, you can notice problems with heaviness in the lungs or with pain in the breast. Just check your breast if you're a woman when Saturn transits the fourth house, because Saturn can create solid masses. Not necessarily, I'm not talking cancer necessarily. It is one of the things Saturn rules. Don't want to scare you. Just telling you. Just if you're a woman, just check there the breast area when Saturn transits the fourth house, and the lung area as well, and the stomach area. Fourth house rules the upper stomach, so sometimes people can have more stomach issues because Saturn slows down and it can create like ulcers or wear and tear on the upper part of the stomach as well, if you're susceptible to such things, because you're processing very deep emotions from the past currently. And if you're not able to assimilate and process them psychologically, emotionally that easy, those difficult emotions, sometimes it hits exactly either the breast or the upper stomach. So again, it's good to work with a psychologist or someone who teaches you how to release emotions, because Saturn in the fourth house brings to the surface those painful emotions that were buried from the past. It's some kind of a practice there where you breathe through the feelings, through the emotions. Even if you're not remembering something, you might just feel heavy feelings and you're wondering why, but this is the pain from childhood that's coming to the surface to be released. So maybe someone who can teach you how to release feelings, how to breathe from them, not to suppress them, because there is a tendency with Saturn in the fourth house to try and suppress our feelings sometimes and disconnect from them and bury them. But this is not the purpose of it. The purpose is to work through them. Okay, but good for building, property, relocation. Yes, slower and a bit heavier, but still, that's what Saturn wants you to work on. Also, if you're married, this is your family life. And in extreme cases, sometimes it can be some kind of problem in the family. I've seen sometimes divorces happen when Saturn transits the fourth house, and people have to sell properties and so on, I've seen the other thing as well, taking on more responsibility through a child, through a house together in a partnership, for example. So these are different ways it can play out depending where you are in your life. Then let's go to Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be in the first 4 months till May the 10th in your 5th house, and then in the last 2 months of the year, in November and December again, it will be in your 5th house. So altogether 6 months it will spend in your 5th house, which is here, and from May the 10th till November, it will go for 6 months in your 6th house. So you'll get to feel the influence of Jupiter in 2 areas of your life. Let's start with the first one, which you'll feel mostly till May the 10th, and then November and December 2022. That's a beautiful place for Jupiter to be, because it will be trining all the planets here, or all your ascendant, sun or moon in Scorpio, whichever one you have. So that is very supportive, by the way, when Jupiter trines your sign. how is that you're gonna start feeling more optimistic as well. Saturn is here, that can make you deal with heavy emotions, but Jupiter is really helping. And by the way, I forgot to say something. Who is going to feel the more difficult this year? Which Scorpios? Scorpios that are born from 18 till 25 degrees in Scorpio. If you have Sun, Moon, or Ascendant from 18 till 25 degrees, Saturn will square your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. So you will feel the themes of Saturn the strongest. And what are the themes of Saturn? Themes of Saturn is some kind of test and challenge. If it's your moon in those degrees, it's usually emotional, psychological, to emotional relationships, maybe test to your connection with women, or to your how you feel about yourself. A sense of loneliness can happen as well. A test on the domestic area of life as well, and also with property, home, place of living, or some such responsibilities connected, or even a test sometimes with the health. The moon is often connected to the stomach, if it's your moon in Scorpio, to the stomach, to the female health organs, and generally the health of women very strongly is affected by the moon. So you have to be a bit more careful with that. You have to take care more with healthier routines. And the moon rules also habits, daily habits. So Saturn wants to restructure your daily habits, and it might create for some structure, some crisis, so you can decide that you need to be more organized, more responsible towards your daily habits, with your daily habits, your health daily habits, or whatever, more organized. And it allows you to be more, to put more order in your daily life, to put more order in your home, property, house. That's for all Scorpios as well, Saturn being in the 4th house. For if it's your Sun in Scorpio, Saturn will challenge your confidence. It can give you some hard project at work, or some obstacles at work, to test how committed you are. And if you're not in the right work position, it might be time to change direction with your work, to restructure your career. If you're in the right place of work, there might be extra heavy responsibilities that you're dealing with. There might be some problems with male figures, or important male figures in your life as well, or authority figures. That's some test that Saturn is doing for you that you'll have to overcome. I recently went through Saturn square my Sun, and I just was very busy at work, and things were going a bit, and with my whole life, I was just too many responsibilities, and it was okay. If you have work, Saturn can be, Saturn, if it can be really well dealt with if you have work, responsibilities, duties. If you don't, you usually tend to feel lower. And if you don't have something to be busy with, you can feel low on yourself. It can hit your confidence to some extent, and it can create delays and obstacles with certain projects, for example. And then if it's your ascendant in Scorpio, everything that we talked about, the 4th house, and the ascendant is also, and the sun, with the sun, your immune system can lower as well. So you need to get a bit more sun, more vitamin D, because Saturn suppresses the sun when it squares it, if it's your sun is in Scorpio. So you need either directly to take on more sun, eat more fruits, like citrus fruits and so on, and try to be more, to do some exercise as well, to raise up the immune system. And with the ascendant sign is very similar. It can test a certain relationship with the ascendant sign, to test them, is it the right one, or just to put extra responsibility to you through a relationship. As I said, when Saturn squared my husband's ascendant, we had babies, so we had to become a parent, and I relocated him once to Bulgaria and then back, so heavy responsibilities with such matters. And usually you become a bit more serious, more organized as well with the ascendant when Saturn squares them. So yes, but this 18 to 25 degrees, you're gonna feel a little bit the tougher side of Saturn more. You need to learn to prioritize with your responsibilities and duties. You need to be more organized, some more tests and challenges and delays might be there for you. You need to learn to be more consistent and reliable as well, and mature, and take life a bit more seriously during this period. But now let's get to Jupiter, which till May the 10th and then November, December will be in your 5th house. Jupiter is going to trine for about a month the sun or the moon or the ascendant of each of you, because Jupiter will pass through the whole Pisces. And it will, especially the last 3 degrees, whoever is born in 27, 28, 29 degrees in Scorpio, the last 3 degrees, they will have Jupiter trine their sun, moon, or ascendant 3 times. They will feel very positive, strong positive influence in 2022, especially powerful at the end in November and December when Jupiter is stationary around those degrees. There will be opportunity and growth for them, but actually for all Scorpios, even the ones that have the Saturn influence most powerfully, Jupiter will also trine your sun, moon, or ascendant at certain period, sometime till May. So from January till May, all the other Scorpios will feel all the other Scorpios will feel some very positive opportunity that comes to them. It will be short lasting, maybe for a few weeks, and they have to grab it, but nevertheless, it will happen. And this opportunity will come from the 5th house. What is it? So opportunity can come as 5th house rules our new own brilliant ideas. This is the area where you become co-creator with God. So you get some brilliant idea comes to your mind, or original idea that's your own, and you get excited about it. This is what Jupiter will do till May, and you have to act on it. When this idea comes, don't disregard it, because it has an opportunity to really make your life better and really expand your horizons in some way. And usually you will be the originator of that idea, because it's coming from your self house. 5th house is a self house where you trigger the God gives it to you, but it comes through you somehow. Another way it can happen is that you can have, for example, when I've had Jupiter transit the 5th house, I become super creative. I come up with great business ideas, with great products, so that till May and then November and December, you're gonna feel on fire. You're gonna feel much more inspired than other times normally. And you would feel like if you're a writer, or if you're whatever career you're on, no matter what it is, even if you're an accountant or financial advisor, you'd be much more creative. You'd come up with better plans, whether to promote your business or to help your clients. It's just original, creative, inventive. This is what Jupiter expands, this originality, this uniqueness, and the natural talents. You also can discover some beautiful natural talent that you have, and start unfolding it with joy, with pleasure, because Jupiter gives joy and makes things easy. And these are our 5th house, is what God put in us like seeds. Each one of us is born with certain talents, and sometimes we don't become aware. Sometimes we know them from a little child. You can sing, for example, something that gives you, and those talents are not just something you're good at, but something that gives you great joy when you're doing it. Some of you might be great at sports. Some of you natural talent might be, of course we always have to train to get better, but some of you, just like my natural talent is to talk. To explain, to tell stories, astrology. From little child I was fascinated by those things. And to teach. My natural talent is teaching. I remember you can usually find out what your natural talent is if you've lost touch with it right now, is remember what did you play at from the ages of 7 to 14, because the 5th house rules the children that are after 7 to teenage years. The 5th house rules children. So this is also the house of our natural talents, and children are most in tune with their natural talents. I remember when I was a child, at that age, I always used to play being a teacher, and I always used to play that I'm also that the other thing I used to play is that I can see the future. And lo and behold, little did I know I'll be an astrologer teaching and kind of hoping to forecast the future. So do remember, Jupiter might help you remember what is it your natural talent, or if you've lost your spark of life. When Jupiter transits the fifth house, you get in touch with it. You become childlike. You start feeling more joyful. You start feeling more excited than other times. As I said, more creative. Just like children, they can draw the ugliest painting, but they run to you and see, look, look. And the same way, you're not afraid when Jupiter enters the fifth house. This childlike creativity returns a little bit, reawakens, is revived for you, and you're not afraid to share and to dabble with some creative talents, with some new hobbies, to try different things, to experiment more, because and not because you want to do something, but because you feel inspired to, because you feel excited. Oh, let me try to ride a skateboard. Oh, let me try to paint. Let me try to, do something else that you just get excited to try new things and to play around with it like children are playing, to have more fun because you want to have more fun. And exactly because of that, you discover some natural talent that you're naturally good at, that gives you a lot of joy and fun, and you can start unfolding it. And by the way, from 2023-24, Saturn will enter your fifth house, and you can turn a natural talent that gives you joy into career, because Saturn is to take something seriously and systemize it, organize it, but now you have to play with it and have as much joy as possible in 2022. So it's time to let your hair down, time not just to be serious. Some of you will be more serious, the 18 to 25 degrees Scorpios, because they'll have Saturn influence for them a bit more stronger, but they'll also get the Jupiter influence. So there will be an opportunity to have more fun as well. Fifth house is the house of fun, like children, to go, to party, to pick up something that's very exciting. Sports. Fifth house rules sports, but not sports that you work out, for example, for, running a marathon to win something. Sports for joy. It's like playing tennis. Some people weightlift for joy and fun, and you can get really excited into, and if you pick up some sports now, some exercise sports or running or whatever, it's your sport, or swimming, it's in Pisces, why not? You'd really enjoy it. It will give you joy, because Jupiter is joy-giving planet. So it will feel quite easy, wonderful for you. So that's, that's something to think about, something to do, new hobbies, new, and you can become very passionate. Fifth house rules passion, glamour. You can become very passionate about such things, maybe more to look more glamorous in some way, and Jupiter expands it, you receive more joy from that as well. Also, fifth houses, you can get some incredible creative idea that you will implement. Maybe this creative idea can serve you and can give you joy for the next 12 years, till the next Jupiter cycle. I can tell you what I did when Jupiter transited my fifth house from the ascendant. I created my website, Astrolada, and I was thinking of every detail. I was enjoying the process so much. I was giving ideas. I was like, we'll put this here, this there. So that's the baby that I created when Jupiter was in the fifth house for me. It's another thing that can also indicate pregnancy or having a child, because Jupiter is a fertile planet in the 5th house of children. And interestingly enough, Saturn in the 4th house of being a parent and having responsibilities to little children as a parent. That can indicate, for those of you who are that age, and possibility that you can have a child if you want to. To get pregnant, it's much easier when Jupiter is in the 5th house. So if you want that, you have the green light there by those two planets. Also, if you have children, you can it indicates that maybe you can receive a lot of joy from spending time with your children. You can there can be some very good positive development happening in the life of your child, especially firstborn. For example, they might be graduating university, or they might find a great job, or they might start on something that gives them a lot of joy, that they're developing way, they're unfolding, and you're very happy seeing their progress. Jupiter will give these opportunities, so you can improve a relationship with a child. Some people don't have good relationship with a certain child. It can, or they, for example, I've seen parents who had a problematic child, and the child was starting to be with the wrong crowd and getting involved with certain dodgy stuff, and Jupiter entered the 5th house of that lady, and the child, the problems improved there. The child started studying again, because Jupiter is the planet of goodness and moralness, so it can, some difficult situation with the child or relationship with child can also improve. Now, the 5th house is also romance. Some of you Scorpios can fall in love, because whenever Jupiter transits through its own sign, because Jupiter is transiting through Pisces, it fulfills the promise of that house. So for those of you who are single, or even not single but not in love, there can be people in relationships who are not in love, Jupiter, for some of you, can definitely bring a blessing of falling in love. This is rare times for a person to fall in love. I love being in love. I don't know about you, but there is nothing as exciting as being in love. And so that's, and it's not necessarily that it's just falling in love with someone else. You can fall in love with life a bit more. This zestful life, this joyful life can return for you. But when we fall in love, we definitely, our zestful life comes back. We become more creative. I know that when I fall in love, I would paint little paintings for, when I was first in love with my husband, I would leave him very creative little cards, and I would make him little games. You become very inventive, creative when you're in love. But it doesn't need to happen through another person. It can happen sometimes you just discover a new passion or a hobby that makes you feel so meaningful, so excited about life. This is how Jupiter in the 5th house can work again. Because just like children are in love with life, this can come, this ability to be in love like the children have, can come to you as well now for some period, to revive this zest, this lust for life, as they call it, to play, to have fun, to be joyful, to dance. Maybe you haven't danced in a while, and Pisces in the 5th house, one of the things might be to love to dance, or to go to holidays at the beach, Piscean things, to do such things, to paint, to listen to music. You can just again revive or discover music that you really love, discover such things that make you feel like, just like when you're in love makes you feel super happy, in the same way when Jupiter transits there can happen, but truly falling in love can happen, or reviving a relationship romantically, reviving if you were very in love with your partner, but things became a little bit humdrum. Jupiter enters your 5th house, and you can really revive things again, like a second honeymoon, for example. Or you can fall in love with someone else. So you start doing a lot more fun together with your partner. Being playful like kids, role playing or whatever. And I remember I had a friend who has Pisces in the 5th house. And when Jupiter transits her 12 years ago, her 5th house, she met her husband, and actually they got married very quickly. But then he went to prison, and he just came out now, and he's just coming out now, and and she says we're gonna remarry again in 2022. Actually, Jupiter will be in her 5th house again, so they're recommitting again. She says we're going through a second honeymoon. We're so in love, we're hoping to have a child. So, I'm just giving you stories how it plays out for some people, and it can play out. Okay, so for the creative ones, great results. For the if you're a creative person, you just get ideas. You might write the book or whatever. For the if you're an actor, you might become more popular. 5th house is the house of fame. When Jupiter trans is there, it can expand your fame in some way because you do something unique, something original, and this is a year for you Scorpios, where you're going to dare to be center of attention. You're not going to be so afraid. You can overcome certain fears about being center of attention. Some of you can to put yourself there in the public light, to be more flamboyant, to be more a bit the Leo energy in you will awaken, because the 5th house naturally carries the Leo energy. Ta-da! To be more entertaining, to be more fun, to be more funny, to put yourself in the spotlight. And people that in careers where they're in the spotlight, their career will expand, they'll grow, will flow. If you're an actor, if you're creative of some sort, if you put yourself like me on the spotlight, in the center stage of some sort, it will grow. If you work with children or in education, if you're teaching somehow, because 5th house is one of the houses of teaching, you think are going to expand, you're going to have very good results, especially till May and November and December. If you're in fashion industry, if you're in anything glamorous, elite, with celebrities, or with fashion, things will expand and grow for you as well. And anything creative as well, your new ideas, as I said. So I love that 5th house energy with Jupiter there. Some of you might have more than one boyfriend or girlfriend. Jupiter does that. Oh, I can't wait for Jupiter in the 5th house. Some of you I got engaged in Jupiter on the 5th house. Yeah. So just giving you an example of what happened years ago. And then from May the 10th till November, so for 6 months, Jupiter will enter your 6th house. It's not making a direct aspect to Scorpio, but it triggers a house of work. So May till November, you can expand your career. You can get, for example, you can find a better job with better conditions, or the conditions of your already existing job can improve. They can become easier, more pleasant. You can start enjoying your work more. And Jupiter, though, goes retrograde at a certain period. Goes retrograde from July 28th to October. July 28th till November the 30th. So from August, let's say, till November, till the end of November, till December, from August till December, Jupiter will be retrograde. So this is when opportunities from the past in regards to career can come back to you. Also, it can slow down the progress with your career, but still, in May, June and July, you can have a lot of progress ahead in regards to your career, work projects, some expansive or very positive work project can come to you, for example. Or you can expand your number of employees. If you have your own business, the 6th house is your employees and your projects and your the work that you have. Well, it expands it, Jupiter. So fantastic, if you're if you want new employees, you're gonna attract really good ones, Jupiter, very knowledgeable, with good intentions, creative, So you can rely a lot on the help from employees or those below you, or if you're an employee yourself, you'll find your employment getting better, maybe even getting a bit more money at your work. Jupiter trine the second house, Jupiter trine the 10th house. You might have good progress and good opportunities coming to you in regards to any career which is sixth house career. So if you're in the military, in the army, in the police, these are sixth house careers. If you're a doctor, nurse, opportunities for work, to growth can come, or some even recognition, which is Jupiter. If you're in social services, if you're working in ministries of service of some sort, you can notice expansion of possibilities of your business, of your career. If you are in a field of health, for example, nutritionist or healer or gym trainer or therapist of some sort, you can notice expansion and growth of your business. And by the way, it's going to come again, if you don't feel it or in 2020 already, in 2023, because Jupiter will be for 6 months in Aries again in 2023. So everything that I'm talking about, I'm sure a lot of you will feel it already in 2022, but in the middle, May till November. But if you don't, then Jupiter comes into Aries again in 2023 to give opportunities with your work, with your career. Plus, Jupiter can give you knowledge about how to sort out some debt if you have a debt, because the sixth house rules debt. So Jupiter is knowledge. You might receive knowledgeable advice from a good, debt consolidator of some sort. And also it can allow you to pay off some debt as well. Sixth house is your health as well. So Jupiter can bring you a lot of knowledge, a lot more knowledge about health. You can become interested from May till November about taking supplements or how to fix some health illness in you, and you'll receive the right information. If you have some health problem and if you start searching, you'd find the right specialist, good specialist, who'll help you, who'll diagnose you more correctly, who'll help you find the right treatment plan, the right medicine. You might find the right supplements for certain conditions that you thought that you couldn't, that they'll be for life, but you actually start eating certain foods or supplements, and they start improving and becoming better. So Jupiter gives you a blessing there in regards to your health, but there is a bit of a darker side of Jupiter in the sixth house as well, because wherever it goes, it can give more earth. So it can give a bit more health problems that they escalate, they expand. So you can become, but the ultimate goal of Jupiter is so you become aware of those health problems, that they become more present in your consciousness. And because of that, you start, so you can find the solution, because the ultimate goal of Jupiter is to give you knowledge and to remove the ignorance in regards to certain health states of yours, or mental or physical health states. If you have some mental imbalance or physical imbalance, Jupiter can give you a lot of knowledge about it. So some of you even might want to start to study something about medicine, about herbs, about nutrition, or if you have such business, it will really expand a lot more. You'll become a lot more knowledgeable. You can also start doing exercise for health. The fifth house is exercise for joy, which Jupiter will also allow you to do, and then Jupiter in the sixth house is to exercise and to eat properly for health, to correct an imbalance. Another thing you'll notice when Jupiter is in your sixth house is that you become very compassionate to those in need. Those Virgo qualities will expand for you, to be of service, to help. Actually, when you're not working or if you're not helping someone, you might feel a little not as happy. And actually, the biggest source of joy when Jupiter is in your sixth house from May till November, and then again in 2023, the first 6 months or something, one of your biggest source of joys will be to be of help, to be useful in some way, to help those in need, whether through charity, whether just help a friend or do something practical, or to be working, to be doing something useful. You'd really get a lot of joy out of it. Or even you might get a lot of a joy and a kick out of cleaning, organizing. You know, these are things we usually do because we have to. But when Jupiter transits the 6th house, you start finding kind of a Zen energy. Jupiter is the Zen spiritual energy in cleaning, organizing, putting order around you. And actually, you can find yourself being very more creative, because Jupiter is a creative planet when things are organized around you. You might find a great internship or apprenticeship, because the 6th house is the house of the intern, the apprentice, when Jupiter transits your 6th house as well. Or you can get interns and apprentices. But look how funny it is. First, Jupiter is in your 5th house, so gives you some new idea. Then Jupiter goes into the 6th house and gets you to put it to action, to start working on it, to work on the fine details. And so first you get the inspiration, and after that you do the hard work of the, the apprentice, of the one who has to 6 houses to implement a plan, to organize the details of it, to do the hard work of it, and Jupiter will give you joy in making it. So and then Jupiter comes back a little bit in your 5th house for a couple of months to correct some of the creative ideas, maybe to revive an idea, maybe to get some more creativity, and then comes back at the very end of 2022 in your 6th house again to get you to work hard, to put routines around you, to be more organized in a way, but through feeling joy that way. So these are, and the 6th house is a pet. So Jupiter there can bring you a pet, a great joy by having a pet, for example. So let's see. Some of you might end up with a pet. Okay, so this was Saturn and Jupiter, their dance. Now let's go to the nodes. The North node will be from January, from around the first 10-15 days of January. It's moving from your 8th house into your 7th house, which means that the South node, Ketu, is going to be in the sign of Scorpio the whole 2022 till the middle of 2023. They're always opposite. Rahu and Ketu are an axis. They're not a planet. They're not planets. They're like an axis where the sun and the moon cross, and they're the karmic nodes, because the sun and the moon is our past, the sun is our future, the North node shows the future, the South node shows the past, things from past lifetimes, from our past. So having the South node in your sign, the South node is about releasing something, letting go of something. And Scorpio, you know that Scorpio is the sign where you store the very deep feelings. Scorpio is still water or ice. So these Scorpio people basically freeze their feelings and keep their traumas for a long time. They drag them from lifetimes before. Actually, if you chose to be born a Scorpio in this lifetime, whether it's your ascendant, sun, or moon, you chose to bring with you traumas from not just from this lifetime, but more traumatic experiences also in this lifetime, experiences of certain abuse of power and so on. But traumas you're bringing with you, traumas from past lifetimes that are very painful, which which you're trying to work through in this lifetime and to release them, because actually Ketu is one of the rulers of Scorpio in ancient astrology. And that's why they say that Ketu thrives in Scorpio, because Ketu really helps Scorpio release those toxic feelings and traumas that they carry from this lifetime and other lifetimes. So there'll be a huge spiritual release. Ketu is a moksha planet, to liberate. Moksha is to liberate you from the pain. And Scorpio is one of the most painful signs. You know that. you're Scorpio. And because you carry deep feelings of trauma within you, they're so deeply buried and they're so powerful, and they come, and with Ketu now they'll come to the surface to be released. So some powerful alchemical processes will be happening for you for a year and a half, Scorpios. It's not gonna happen overnight, but when Scorpio transit is when Ketu transits the south node Scorpio, like volcanic explosions, and actually there'll be volcanic explosions in the world as well, release of gathered up trauma, because volcanoes are the same. Volcanoes are triggered by the pain of the earth, which comes from the humans, from the pain of the humans. So we'll see a lot of volcanoes exploding around that time, but something similar will happen in a personal level, where there is like an explosion of feelings for you, where you're releasing them, where you cry your eyes out at times. And as I said, Saturn here is working on deep feelings, on another house of feelings for you. It's making you work on those, and to structure and organize those feelings, from the past, to accept them, to become detached with them. And Ketu is allowing you and helping you let go of your own pain, and so on. Plus, when Ketu transits the first house, the lesson is to let go a little bit of the self, not to be focused on the self, and not to try to do everything alone. I'm born with Ketu in the first house, so I can preach to you about Ketu in the first house, what it means. As when Ketu is in the first house, people always feel like, oh, they should do everything alone. No. Actually, if you ask for help from others where Rahu is, you'd get ahead much faster that year in 2022, because wherever Rahu is, we can get a fast track advance in life, very fast. You can just get like a shortcut, basically. And that's why when Ketu is in the first house, you might want to be alone. You might want to be more, to try and do everything alone. But actually, the universe is telling you have to go towards Rahu if you want to have very fast and very materially visible results, because Rahu gives material results. So collaborate, make connections in 2022. And you can actually gonna meet with Rahu in the 7th house some very unusual people, or very ambitious people. Rahu is very ambitious, very it wants prestige, some very driven people. People that can push you ahead. For example, because I have Rahu in the 7th house, for me, others push my ambition. Like someone would tell me, you should do this, why you're not doing that? It's like agents or people that I work with, they tell me, no, you have to do that, it will be, and I'm like, oh, really? Okay, so others push me. And collaborating with others, they trigger me, because I personally am not very ambitious. Ketu in the first house, you yourself are not like, man, whatever comes, Ketu is a bit apathetic planet. It's whatever comes. I've been there, done that. I'm not going to push myself. So the initiative goes away from the person a little bit. They're like, let go, and let God. But Rahu is the opposite. It's extremely driven, ambitions. It wants prestige. And Rahu from your 7th house means that other people will be pushing you in that direction. So someone can come and tell you, why don't you do this? And you'll be like, whoa, I don't know. But you should take the advice and do it, to collaborate with another person, or maybe find an agent if you're someone who is an artist or writer or whatever. Now you can find a very connected and very opportunistic agent. Rahu is very opportunistic. If it finds an opportunity, it will connect you, has connections. Rahu, exaltation. Rahu is connected to Aquarius, which is the networking and gains and well-networked and opportunistic. So I'm telling you that basically you are going to connect with some people. They'll find you out, because Ketu is the passive energy, so you're kind of more passive, while Rahu is the active one. So others can find you out, and others can push you in a new direction. They can introduce something new, progressive, exciting about you. But don't forget, you're also having Jupiter in the 7th house, so you'll be very creative yourself, but there'll be like almost like someone else is pushing you to trigger you in the other direction. Plus, you can meet foreign people or new people. Rahu is something new, very different than people's before in your circle. I remember when Rahu transited exactly my 7th house cusp from the ascendant, I met like on the same day 10 new people, and they're still friends with me to this day, and we still connect and we still do things together. And they were all very glamorous, which is very Rahu. They were all they were all celebrities actually in Bulgaria, because I was invited to some fashion show in Bulgaria, and as a guest, we ended up 3 nights hanging up with those celebrities. They're musicians, artists, and we actually even are doing certain things now together. Fashion models and business people. So we kind of suddenly on the same day this very famous people, because Rahu is someone prestigious, privileged, very ambitious, very glamorous, and with those people that are all famous, we kind of stayed in touch and were doing certain plans. And actually the people that can enter your life when Rahu transits the 7th house can be in your life for many years, because they're kind of like karmic connections. New karma that you have to create with, something that you create, even something materially with it, that they can give you loops and hoops into certain area of life that you want to go towards. They can give you like a shortcut to get somewhere. So, and because these people have already established their names in Bulgaria, they keep asking me, we'll make you a star here overnight, you'll be on TV all the time. And I'm like, let me first, I want to deal with my YouTube channel. I'm still not ready for the big screen, and and my Bulgarian is not so good, and so on. But I'm just giving you an example of how Rahu can play out, like someone pulls you out into the limelight, or find an agent or someone that is more advanced, more, let's say, more ambitious, wealthy of some sort. Foreign as well can be, enters your life and drives you, pushes you. Wow, with Ketu in your 1st house, you can be much more spiritual yourself and humble. You can notice that you're becoming humbler and more kind of hidden. You want to be a bit more hidden. Ketu is a hiding influence. You don't want to be so much in the public eye, but someone pulls you out there, whether you want it or no. Rahu in the 7th house pulls you in the public eye. Well, you want to be more private. Ketu is private, so is Scorpio. Ketu rules Scorpio in ancient astrology. And you, this year, more than normal, you'd want to be a bit more private, hidden, or you'd want to do more introspective activities. Ketu rules meditation, spiritual activities. So you might feel like you want to dive more into such kind of a spiritual matters, because Ketu is transiting your sign. You can become more spiritual. I have a friend, she just had Ketu transited her ascendant for 2 years or 1.5 years, and she went so much into meditation. And Ketu is the planet of astral travel as well. She started coming out of her body and traveling and seeing things. So Ketu can do this for some of you. Whoever is spiritual enough to practice that, it can get you to get to such a level, to spiritually advance a lot. But it indicates kind of a bit isolation from the world and going within, and that's what Ketu likes to do. But also it can indicate certain losses sometimes, something that you have to let go of, especially on the material level. Ketu can help you disconnect from material attachments in some level, and from drama. Ketu will help you let go of the drama to some extent, because Scorpio has a lot of drama, and Ketu can help you release it a little bit to have more internal emotional peace. And Saturn in the 4th house can anchor your feelings, build a strong foundation. Well, Rahu in your 7th house now, the craziness will be around your relationship, because Rahu is where crazy things happen. Not only that, Rahu will be with Uranus all the year together, conjunct, very, the closest will be around the spring, but they're together the whole year where you are, or around the summer basically. And That's July 31st, Rahu and Uranus conjunct, but something crazy will happen in your relationship. While you're kind of more toned down, more trying to be more cooler, but someone totally new can enter your life. And by the way, when Rahu transits the fourth house, many times people meet someone that they get married to, that the biggest changes in relationships happen then. When the nodes transit the first and the seventh house. To a lesser degree, also the moon. So if your moon is in Scorpio, and the sun as well. I remember I got married when the south node was transiting my sun, and Rahu was in the seventh house from my sun. That year I got married, and I had Jupiter in the seventh from the ascendant. So a couple of things. So the seventh is about marriage. So it can indicate for some of you marriage here. And as you saw, Jupiter in the fifth house, falling in love as well. And with Rahu in the seventh house, it can be, you can attract a partner who is, if you're single, who has been divorced, for example. This is one of the meanings of Rahu. Someone who's been divorced, who's been married before, or someone who is foreign, from a different cultural background. I have Rahu in my seventh house, and I know I always attract the same partners, Rahu partners. Foreigner, a bit, or kind of a very sexy partner. Rahu is sexy, very attractive, kind of like beauty that is exotic in a sense, and sexy, and you get fascinated, a bit obsessive. Someone that you can get obsessive about. But you can also, it's also predatory. Sometimes it can be predatory, so you can be careful that you're not drawn to someone that is who is opportunistic. Let's say not so much predatory, opportunistic. But you can kind of lose your mind a little bit with Rahu. If you fall in love when Rahu transits the seventh house and Uranus, it can happen suddenly. Wow, it can be someone who's foreign or someone who is from a different cultural background. Maybe you're Asian and it's a white girl, that you fall for. Or maybe you're white and it's a black guy, or someone from a different state, from a different social background. Maybe you're from aristocracy, they live in they're from a hippie community, something very different, very unique, very unusual, so to speak, that can appear in your life. But usually the people that appear in your life, and sometimes it's not just for sex and romantic relationship and marriage, sometimes it can be just new people entering your life. They're usually there in your life for a longer time, because it is Rahu, meaning that there's some karma to create together. You can also form partnerships with someone more ambitious, and this partnership can pull you ahead and move you ahead and get you further, but again, possible there is opportunistic nodes there. They can be, but again, it will lead to more material gains, because Rahu is materially gainful. So if you make partnerships, you'll be materially more gainful. If you make you might sign certain contracts. You can become very passionate about signing contracts, agreements. Whatever Rahu is, will become passionate about. Whatever Ketu is, will become apathetic a little bit about. So when Ketu is in the first house, you can become a little bit pathetic about taking care of your appearance sometimes, or you can or about yourself, putting yourself first, but you become passionate about bonding with others, making collaborations. I did some incredible partnerships when Rahu was in my seventh house, and with people that basically became my best partners, that increased my income twice almost, with great astrologers like Victor and so on. So you can meet someone that helps you a lot, some very beneficial partnerships, contracts, agreements of sort. Plus, as I said, this is a time when people can get married, or some big changes in their relationships, and especially around the eclipses. And there are eclipses on the 30th of April, at around 30th of April at around in Taurus, 10 degrees or 9 degrees, something like that it was, in the 7th house. So around that time, and also there is eclipse on October 25th at 2 degrees Scorpio. So October 25th, around that time and 2-3 months after, there is a solar eclipse. It's more powerful at 2 degrees Scorpio, and it's exactly with Venus. So it's kind of, there is some good things coming from it, but there can be some big change again in relationships, especially if you're born the first 5 degrees Scorpio. From 0 to 5 degrees, around 2, an eclipse on your ascendant sun or moon, it's exactly at 2 degrees, but give it 3 degrees before, 3 degrees after. So your life can turn around, can change. Some powerful new beginning in your life. If it's your sun, might be new career, new direction in life, something to do with the male figure, important, that changes fated. If it's your moon, something with a female figure, mother figure, or some powerful new beginning with family, home, place of living. Sometimes crisis situations as well, eclipses bring around such topics. And even relationships, the moon is connected to relationships. But new eclipse can also give you new property. And then on the October the 8th at 16 degrees Taurus, which means it's opposition. It's a lunar eclipse opposition. So if you have anything around from 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 degrees in Scorpio, the other eclipse, lunar eclipse from your 7th house, can indicate a powerful development with your relationships. Something really fated happening there, whether it's a new partnership, whether it's because it's a full moon, it can be a completion of some partnership, seeing the results of it, or taking the partnership to the next level, like marriage that happens over the next 2-3 months. Or if a relationship has run its course and you're around 16 degrees Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, that can be the end of some partnership or relationship as well, because eclipses can do that. They either powerful new beginning, powerful new end. And now let's see. So yeah, we did those things that are going to be like a background for everything else, the most important events. Now let's see a little bit what's happening with Venus retrograde, with Mars and Mercury retrogrades, because we're going to have them all going retrograde. We have, oh, that's a busy year. The year starts with a lot of planets. Venus and Mercury in January will go retrograde in your 3rd house. Then you might be reconnecting with friends from the past, catching up on old correspondence, on old documents you have to review, revisit, some old commercial business project or teamwork, work with team that you have to do, fix, edit, work on some written, spoken media project, educational project, revising or redoing something, fixing something, redoing a plan or a business plan of some sort, anything business connected that is with communication or beauty or art, with information or media or anything connected with the internet. You have to be a bit more cautious in January because planets are retrograde. You have to redo it, and when they start moving direct from February, you're gonna have a 3 times better project, 3 times better written project or marketing project or media project, because you put 3 times more efforts when those planets were retrograde, and when you fixed it, you changed it a little bit, you improved it. You might be reconnecting with relatives, with siblings from the past. Yes, there might be some escalation of issues between such people. Things from the past that were unsaid, now you bring them up to discuss them. Something you're not comfortable about with, that you want to readdress and balance out in those relationships with teammates, workmates, playmates, teammates, friends, relatives, siblings. That you're working on some issues there. Or even they might be having to fix some website and redo it, make it better, more harmonious, beautiful, or some vehicle, 3rd house, maybe some disruptions with itinerary and your plans, your schedules and plans that you have to redirect and maybe redo them and make better plans actually, and with your itinerary, or with cars, with phones, with communication devices as well, because the third house is connected to all of those things that you're doing. But also, for some of you, it might be just catching up with friends and relatives from the past. And when they start moving direct in December, things start becoming easy and more according to plan. Sorry, not December, in February. And Mars is also there, but there is a lot of communication, information, maybe short trips that are being done those first couple of months. And actually, Mercury is also retrograde a bit in your fourth house in January, part of January in Aquarius. So you might be redoing some things at home, some important communications with family members, readdressing the rules of the games at home, who has what responsibilities, or having to have some, to wanting to make it more balanced, more fair, the relationships at home, bringing up something from the past, or even going to visit family members, people from the past, again, reconnecting with them, or something, reorganizing your home in some way. And then Mercury is retrograde here, we talked about that, but then from February they both start moving direct, and then March, Venus, Mercury, they start going there, but March, Saturn and Mars are meeting in Aquarius and Aries, so there might be some more difficult event happening with your home and family, property, place of living, parents and parental responsibilities in your family around April. Some new beginning is starting, then a new cycle of Saturn and Mars is starting, but it's something that it's a bit difficult, that where you have to put a lot of efforts and focus around March and April, and you might be doing this thing for 2 years till the next Saturn Mars cycle. Okay, and then in April, I told you that I forgot to tell you that in April, Jupiter and Neptune are going to meet in Pisces. So that last time it happened was around 11-12 years ago, and they met again, I think, in Pisces, yes. Or was it? Yeah. But they're meeting in Pisces to start a new 12-year cycle. And Jupiter and Neptune, they're very allowing influences. They're not like Saturn with boundaries. While in your home, you have to put boundaries and be harsher because Mars is there, March, April. You have to be like stricter there. When it comes to your love life, you're very allowing. Or when it comes to there might be some new beginning in love life with an incredible outpouring of inspiration around April when Neptune and Jupiter meet. Artistic people can be very like on fire around that time. There can be some very romantic encounter because Neptune is super romantic, almost like too beautiful to be true, like a fairy tale romantic encounter. Or if you're already married, it might even be conception of a child for some of you, and if it happens around that time, or if a child is born around that time, it will be a bit otherworldly child, very spiritual. Jupiter expands the unconditional love of Neptune, very loving, very zen, peaceful, spiritual child of some sort. But also if you're around April, there can be just some gift from the universe, some good karma, because the fifth house is the house of the good karma of ours from past lifetime. So there is like kind of an opening of the portal of your good karma for something good to come to you around that time. So something like a gift, I don't know, from the universe. Then we're continuing into May when Jupiter enters your sixth house, where things will go more into career and work. We talked about that, but Mercury goes retrograde on May the 10th, the same day Jupiter goes retrograde. And goes retrograde, Mercury, in your 8th house. So some secret might come to the surface. You might have to redo certain taxes, documents about insurance, inheritance, or tax documents of some sort you're revising, or you might have to rebudget with your partner, make a different plan with your business partner, whatever, or you might want to certain investments from the past might pay off for you, if it's stock market or whatever, or something can be returned to you that is owed to you from others, for example. But also you might have to be careful with what you do with your investments, with your money, finances, that you don't take new risks, let's say, to most of May, basically. I would say the whole May. And you might have to revisit some secret information can come to the surface to you, very private information, confidential, around that time, around May. Or you might get very interested into digging into conspiracy theories, into revising astrology, psychology, or digging into your subconscious, maybe talking about the past and your past traumas. 8th house is the house of Scorpio again, where you can dig into the past, look in May very strongly to recognize some patterns from the past, maybe remembering past lifetimes or past traumas, work with the psychologist there, or maybe some things like a trauma or pain that was caused to you, you might be discussing it, or maybe some intimacy, you might be discussing some secrets and private things, intimacy with a partner. Plus, then Mercury goes retrograde in part of May into your 7th house, especially those of you who are Scorpio, who have their Scorpio Sun, Moon, or Rising from 26 degrees till 30 degrees. The last 5 degrees of Scorpio, 25 till 30. Mercury retrograde in May will oppose your Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. You might re-examine certain partnership. Is it fair or not? And you might set new rules for the partnership and say, okay, you better do those responsibilities. If this business partnership is to work, this is what I don't like, you're not pulling up your weight. Or even a partner can come to you and say, we have to sit and discuss better which is fair for both of us. I don't like this, let's re-examine it. Or your personal relationship, you might talk about something from the past that is upsetting you and saying, for example, you might say, I don't like how you spend your money on this. We need to change things if you want this relationship to work. Or I don't like how you do, or maybe your partner can say this. Some important conversations about things from the past, and maybe some ultimatums sometimes, or new rules. Mercury means to change the rules of the games in a partnership so it's more fair and balanced. And if there is no willingness from your side or the other side to collaborate, to discuss, sometimes partnerships finish when Mercury goes retrograde in the 7th house. And some contracts can be reevaluated, ended, or redone again with better terms and conditions, or new terms and conditions. Some old deal might come back for you, or some old partnership can come back. Some person from the past can come back to reconnect with you when Mercury in May goes into the 9th, into the 7th house. And maybe to be restarted in some instances, especially those who are in the last 5 degrees of Scorpio, remember? Or maybe this partnership to be reevaluated and seen from a different perspective and healed. And let go again. Or maybe some project you've done before with someone can come back for you to complete it, to put finishing touches, it can be many things. But sometimes when some information comes to the surface which might push you not to make any compromises, basically, with certain relationship. Okay, and then the last time Mercury goes retrograde is in September the 9th till October the 2nd, so all the September. I would include the pre-retrograde period, because for a week or 10 days it's felt the pre-shadow time. So it's going to be retrograde in your partly in your 12th house in September. So again, something secret here. There is some secret that can come to the surface, something you are not aware of, some missing information. But also be careful that you don't lose documents, papers. 12th house is the house of losses, because it's, it's behind you there, you can't see it. So be careful not to lose papers, misplaced passwords, credit cards, things like that. And you have to deal with those things, misplaced important information and so on. And the retrograde period is about retrieving it or fixing that mess. So maybe phones, electronic devices there can be some miscommunication, and the retrograde period is about you trying to sort this problem. I remember when I had Mercury retrograde in the 12th house, my laptop broke and I lost some videos. Plus, another thing that happened is, and during the retrograde period, I had to fix my laptop. And there was something that I found out that my emails, I was not receiving emails for like 4 or 5 days because someone had redirected my emails to our dodgy account, and was sending emails to my, so I was like, whoa. So I sorted that mess. Sometimes it's this, I hope it's not that for you, but it's this kind of things that kind of frustrate you. Also, it can mean that you're doing some travel kind of in a faraway place that you've planned before. In the retrograde period, you do it. But if you're in a foreign country, be careful that you don't lose something there because of Mercury retrograde. And Mercury is retrograde partially in September in your 11th house as well, which means you can reconnect with friends from the past that you haven't seen. You can bring up some topics from the past to discuss with friends that are important for you. You can also you can be renegotiating a salary or a bonus, or working on some long-term goal, which requires you to put some details, and which requires more attention and focus to detail. And 11th house is one of the business houses. Mercury going retrograde there. Usually you can do and fix a lot of things around business, prepare, edit, things like that. And when it turns direct by October the 2nd, 3rd, you can have much better project or much better, connection with clients, because 11th house is your fan base, your client base as well. So Mercury days, like you rearrange something, you re-examine something, change the plan of the marketing, for example, and so on. So, but then in September we have another big event, and that's Mars is entering Gemini. Now you're going to feel that, Scorpio, because Mars rules you. Mars is your day ruler. Mars going in your 8th house for 6 months, from September till March 2023. So from September till the end of the year, and then 3 more months after the other year. The theme of the 8th house will become extremely prevalent and intense for you. It's like you're Mars, you're going into this 8th house. And what is the 8th house? It's the house of Scorpio. Crazy, but you're gonna become even more scorpionic than you are. You're going to get, and the 8th house is the house of the battleground. In ancient astrology, you might be fighting some fight there for those 6 months, especially fights about information, because it's in Gemini. You might be fighting some fight. Sometimes it might be a court case fight, just saying that it is a possibility. Not all of you, I mean, but and usually when Mars is in the 8th house, you win the fight, just letting you know. But it might get very tough, some fight. And 8th house, the house of power struggles. There might be some power struggle that you're fighting, especially verbally, because it's in Gemini, and you're personally involved in it. And it might be even a power struggle connected to work or your career, because Mars rules the 6th house, going into the 8th house, And again, this is Parivartana Yoga, which means despite of the difficulty that arises, something good comes out of it and you win over that difficulty. So even some crisis situation arises, because 8th house is crisis situation, it might be connected to your work or even your health. You turn it around somehow and you win that battle. Just telling you with the positive, so when it gets tough, you don't get overwhelmed. But some kind of a crisis situation can happen with Mars so long in your 8th house. You be careful as well for accidents and things like that, especially around the retrograde period. So at the time when Mars is turning retrograde, which is around October the 30th, so a week before, already start being careful, and then turning direct January the 12th, 2023. So it will be retrograde November, December, and half of January 2023, when things will be the toughest. And 8th house is also the house of mutual finances and resources. You might be asked to re-examine somehow your finances, rebudget. There might be certain extra expenses. And I always love to give this example because I had Mars retrograde in my 8th house years ago when I was married to my previous husband. And 8th house is the finances of the husband and the partner. So the moment Mars entered this 8th house, I think basically someone stole his phone when he was abroad, his work phone, and made phone call for £20,000, some scam. So, and his work told him, you have to pay back the money because the company said they're not gonna pay for that. And he said, but it's not my fault. So for the 2.5 months while Mars was retrograde, he was fighting not to pay this money. And at the end, when Mars turned direct, he didn't have to pay that money. But it was happening in my 8th house, so it was my partner stressing out about money and this kind of attack on our mutual finances, because who has $20,000, especially when you're in your 20s, 30s, and so that was the stressful thing. He was stressing all the time. It was my horoscope, but it was in his 2nd house, his own money. Mars was retrograde. But just giving you an example. For example, there can be some stressful situation with partner or with partner's finances and resources that they need to kind of overcome. Maybe some change of the financial situation of your partner. Or if you yourself have business partners, there might be some situation there you're dealing with the money of the business partner. Plus, it might mean that you are trying to change. If you have clients, the 8th house is their finances, so you might be trying to fix or change. Maybe you might be expecting and some situation of money coming from a client, for example, that you have to put more effort, some struggle that you receive this money, or it can indicate that you decide to change, because Mars wants to improve things after all, and to improve how you receive your partner's money, change something there. Or there might be some fight that you're doing about taxes, insurances, or inheritances. Maybe some insurance claim that you're making a fight about, some inheritance claim that you're making a fight of. And I'm quite hopeful and positive that you might actually win it, because even if it's complicated, Mars is making trines to Saturn, sextiles from time to time to Jupiter, not all the time. It's making squares to Neptune. So I want you to be careful not to become by someone else with money. There is this danger. The most negative thing of some of this with Mars in the 8th house square Neptune in your 5th house, especially if it's some kind of get rich quick scheme, or some kind of a 5th house is very speculative investment that you have to be careful. And it's Neptune. It sounds too good to be true. So be careful where you're putting your money and investing your money, whether it's in pooled resources or mutual hedge funds or something like that, or some bank or whatever, or some investment, because of Mars square Neptune, especially around the retrograde period, that there is not some losses. And there is possibilities of some losses of your investment as well, because it is a malefic planet. It is Saturn. So if you can rearrange a little bit, some your investments somehow, because you might get into some complicated situation for a little bit with this Mars in the 8th house retrograde. And if you invested in the stock market, I'll be a bit cautious, especially around the retrograde period. As I said, the end of October till November, till middle of January. If you invested in whatever, cryptos, all of those things where you put money with others in something, again, I'll try to be a bit more cautious. I don't know. If it has to happen, it will happen. But, forewarned is forearmed. Especially while Mars is retrograde, you have to act more cautiously with extra safety, and so probably you can avoid some of the more difficult expenses that can happen with Mars in the 8th house. Another thing is that Mars in the 8th house can create some crisis situation, sometimes even connected to death. I don't want to scare you. You are not dying, don't worry. But having to fight some kind of a darker forces, let's say. Maybe someone that is more powerful than you or something. But with the death thing is you might just decide to investigate a lot more life after death, for example. Or you might be that there is more death happening around you that you're conscious of. You know, it's, I don't know, it might be workmates, Mars rules the 6th house, or uncles, aunts, you know, or not necessarily you, but you might, the theme of death might be around you because Mars wants you to be fearless and confront this topic of death and not be afraid and maybe study and investigate it. You know, and just like Mars is a warrior, it's like I don't give in to such death or to fears of death or to fears of crisis. And there might be some emergency situations that are happening for you, not so much life and death, but emergency situation where, because Mars does great in the 8th house, you'd be able to cope fantastic in this emergency situation. And some of you, especially if you're in a career that is like career which is emergency crisis management, you just have a very busy 6 months, especially the retrograde period, where you need to coordinate better, where you need to be hands-on at crisis management. But if you're in emergency, in surgery, you know, type of person, and sometimes there can be surgeries when Mars is in the 8th house. And don't freak out if this is the right time for a surgery. If you have to have a surgery, it is the right time. Sometimes people do surgeries to, you know, to remove their wrinkles. It can be this kind of surgery. I'm wishing that for you. Or it can be sometimes, you know, let's not be, it can be more serious surgery. But again, don't be afraid of that. I've seen so many people have Mars retrograde in the 8th house. They didn't go through surgery. They went through some of the other experiences. Some people just got very much, I knew someone who Mars was transiting their house retrograde, and they're scientists, and they were doing some degree, and they were just doing very deep investigation. All their energy was going into digging, into investigating. There was some molecular biologist or something. So that's about digging and investigating as well. Mars going into the 8th house for such a long time. It can be just something like that you're doing. Or you might be putting a lot of energy into taxes, insurances, inheritances, investigation, or life after death, or studying psychology, studying astrology. The 8th house is astrology. And when I had Mars retrograde in my 8th house, I was incredible into astrology. I was like digging so much. I was studying so much about it. I had such insights. Plus, you can have powerful psychological breakthroughs. Mars in the 8th house is like an intervention therapist, you know. So you can have an intervention in your life. But actually Mars rules you, so you can intervene into your own life and deconstruct it and restructure it again. And because 8th house is about total transformation, sudden reversals, and Mars rules you, you go there. By the end of this transit, you can be totally transformed, regenerated, transformed in certain way, you know, that you can recognize yourself after that. But psychologically, Mars, it's like makes like a surgery, psychological surgery of you, and psychologically you come out on the other side and you're a different person, because Mars, when it transits the 8th house, makes very fast interventions, very fast psychological turnarounds, 180 degree. So you can have a breakthrough with some trauma, for example, and especially during the retrograde period, you can do the thing of working on some trauma from the past, because the 8th house is where we keep those traumas. And then Mars makes a breakthrough and kind of cuts out all the painful feelings, and you have sudden realization. You're like, wow, and you move to the next level after that, psychologically, emotionally. Also, it can indicate, so working with an astrologer, with a psychic, with a psychologist, with an energy healer, very fast changes with Mars in the 8th house. Very fast sudden reversal of emotional states, or very fast sudden reversal of a health state. 8th house Mars, when it transits there, this is almost like a surgeon. And they say that you can have sudden miraculous healings when Mars transits the 8th house for such a long time, because Mars can awaken the Kundalini there, spin it very fast, because the 8th house rules the Kundalini energy and the apertures of the body. And Mars also does purging there. When it's in the 8th house, it purges you. Purges the emotions, the physical body, and the energetic body. So when the Kundalini spins faster, when Mars is there, because Mars spins everything up, the chakras start spinning fast, and they purge all the debris of emotional, physical, psycho-emotional, mental debris. They come to the surface. And again, there is very explosive energy to Mars in the 8th house. You can find yourself seething emotionally and exploding. And it's actually kind of a healing process, unless you become destructive or self-destructive. You have to be careful for that. But there is this explosive energy that allows you to, so much gathered psychological, emotional stuff to come on the surface. And they can be like a sudden release of emotion. And that can lead to healing, to physical healing of a condition. And remember that Jupiter is in your 6th house, also helping maybe with supplements, the right medical treatment. But Mars can do a miracle healing when it transits the 8th house by triggering the subtle bodies and the kundalinis. But again, I have to warn you, Saturn in the 8th house can sometimes indicate accidents and stuff, to be more careful about those things. And then when Mars, deep research investigation into astrology, to the occult, as I said. What can be a remedy? Let me help you with this. Let me think like Nicole Stojanovic thought, a simple thing. Always a remedy with Mars in the 8th house, like study, read, because it's in Gemini. Put energy and reading into, read books about life after death. Near-death experience, or astrology. And go to the gym, Mars, while you're working out. Listen to such lectures, astrology lectures, occult lectures, psychology lectures, or life after death, or be on the bicycle, and read books about that while you're working out. Or another thing, carry a book with you, which is 8th house, like maybe an occult book, a book on life after death. When you're traveling, because Gemini is to drive a car, in your car carry a book as well, Gemini, with 8th house topics, and maybe, which is Mars, maybe if it's a red book, or if it has like a dagger or a knife on the cover of some sort, like Nicole Stojanovic says, carry a knife wrapped in newspaper when you're going traveling. Knife is Mars, 8th house is, and he says even a dagger with a scorpion on it, something, 8th house. Newspaper, Gemini. When you're driving, Gemini as well. And it can protect you from, the accidents and so on. Just throwing a few ideas there. So it's deep. You become more scorpionic, you become more investigative, you become more combative when Mars is in the 8th house. You want to fight a fight because of, this is the house of the battleground. So I don't know what your fight will be. It might be verbal fight, it might be fight for, for your own rights or whatever, but and usually you win that fight when Mars is in the 8th house, but you're not the one who should attack first, just to let you know. Especially during Mars retrograde. You should act in a Scorpio way. And because it's in the 8th house, you should act in a way where you sit, hide, and wait to see the enemy strike out first, so you see their weakness. This is the way Mars attacks from the 8th house. It doesn't attack first, it doesn't show its cards. It watches and it plans and it ambushes, so to speak, and watches the other to strike out first. Anyway, fun. This 8th house. And I think that by the end of this transit, you would have more of your power back. You'd have gone to the bottom of, eighth house is sexuality. You can delve deep into your sexuality. You can delve into exploring a darker side of sexuality or different side of your sexuality. You can also have some sexually private sexual relationship when Mars is in the eighth house for such a long time. And you can really explore this kind of a deeper, darker psychological side of you, or not necessarily darker, like the hidden one. And you can confront your own shadows. So psychological work is very rewarding if you work with a psychologist. As I said, big breakthroughs with the shadow. And sudden breakthroughs with the shadow and with your own fears and your own demons. This is the eighth house as well. And overcoming certain compulsions eventually. The final result of this can be overcoming traumas, overcoming fears, overcoming certain side of your shadow, not being afraid of that, and certain compulsions or certain enemy that, certain power struggle that has happened, overcoming it. All right, that's it. This is the most important things for you. And now I'm going to go into the planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Uranus will be making an opposition for those of you who are from 14 till 18 degrees. Only 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 degrees of Scorpio. Uranus opposition in the 7th house. Sudden changes, if it's your sun, it might be sudden changes with your career, innovation of your career that is connected to new technologies, to astrology, to Uranus wants to give more freedom to your career, for example, that it's not 9 to 5, but it can do it through disruptions, being fired, or changing a few jobs to find one. Maybe also an important male who is Uranian in nature comes into your life. You can disrupt, or maybe your husband, if you're married, might have to travel, be on and off, who has a big change in their life, which kind of creates some disruption in your relationship, or some important male figure, father figure, some big changes in their life as well. In your career changes, suddenly it does feel disruptive, but this is the nature of an opposition. Also, someone can suddenly enter your life, some person, which is very Uranian, unusual, out of the blue, sparks up excitement in you, is here one day, gone the other, or come on and off relationships can happen with Uranus, with the moon or the sun or the ascendant, on and off, or you can start one relationship, stop it, start another one, stop it, start a third one, and that might continue into the middle of 2023. Or you can even, if it's your ascendant, your moon as well, it can mean a divorce sometimes. Uranus is, if you are not in the right relationship, of course. Even in the right relationships, there's just some big change that's happening in your life. Maybe you're relocating as a couple, maybe you're something that surprises you, like a child, or but out of the blue, or relocation, or one of you has to travel more on and off, can be together. And sometimes they can be, Uranus can excite us into something new, and we might want to try something new, a new relationship, a new lifestyle, and almost like you become like a rebel when Uranus is around, and you're like, I will do what I want. I don't care. I've had enough of trying to fulfill everyone's what everyone wants from me, all my responsibilities. Now I want to be wild, and I want to be like a teenager, and I want to go and experiment and try new things. I want to have an affair. I want to travel the world, or I want to start a new job, from a banker into a florist or whatever, something totally crazy new. And even if you don't want, the changes can come to you from outside. It's an opposition. Usually it involves another or from an outside influence. But after this year, your life will be so different. It's like, and it's something you have not expected, don't think. And it's something very new. If it's with the moon, relocation, but also whether it's sun, moon, or ascendant, when Uranus transits your 7th house, usually it's someone very new, people entering your life, they kind of inspiring you to something new, very unusual, very excitable. suddenly getting married, suddenly getting divorced, such kind of stuff happen. But it's your nervous system might be a bit stressed because it is Uranus. Uranus rules the nervous system and the hormones. So I always advise when you have Uranus transit, take magnesium to calm yourself down and ground yourself, because there's too much electricity going through your body. You can even become electric too much. Ground yourself by walking barefoot on the grass in the morning, because it takes the positive charge of your body, which you have a lot of positive charge, electric, and changes with negative. So it kind of grounds you. Otherwise you can be too much in your head. You have too much vata energy from the Ayurvedic. Vata is a kind of airy energy where you are kind of dizzy, ungrounded, a little bit too much in your head, you know. So it's grounding yourself, but also great new ideas comes when Uranus is around. You do things that you never had the courage to do before. You do things that you surprise yourself, that you've never done before. You do something that shocks you and surprise yourself, and you're like, wow, I have thought I'm too old for such things. Or I have thought I was much more, I didn't think I was such an interesting person, or I can do such things, you know. And sometimes when Uranus is around, we throw out the baby with the water, as they say, but it's time to discontinue, to usually to, if you've been dragging in a relationship for long and you're so in love and for 9 years, but he's a married guy, or he it's a toxic relationship, but you still love them, or you've loved someone even if you're separated with them, and then Uranus comes and bam, you're like, you wake up one morning and you don't want to be with them anymore. You don't love them. Your emotions and feeling disconnection, clean cut. Cutting the cord so easy with Uranus. You can cut the cord with someone that you've been dragging, and something new appears in your life that you totally forget about the previous thing. So powerful new beginnings. Maybe in a bit disruptive way because it's in opposition, but after that everything is, I think my most intense period in my life was Uranus period, Uranus transit, and most exciting. Then, if you're from 22 to 25, 26 degrees in Scorpio, you're having Neptune transiting by trine, so only from 22 to 26 degrees, Neptune trining your ascendant. Very inspirational, very romantic. You can experience a romantic love or connection with someone that is not disruptive, that is gentle, that is loving, that is feels soulmate like. You can feel very inspired for music, for art. You can feel much more compassionate. You can forgive people a lot more, and you can let go of so much, and things will align for you easy without effort, because Neptune gives you things, whether it's in your career or in your personal life, almost like by magic. It's like you're on drifting down on a beautiful boat in a very calm, beautiful river, and it takes you to the right place, you know, so you relax and enjoy the ride. If you have those degrees, 22 degrees Scorpio to 25 degrees, well, you're gonna have Saturn square as well, if it's those degrees. So I forgot, yeah, you're having Saturn square those degrees, 22 to 25, but Neptune is trining. So Neptune, despite Saturn giving some obstacles, Neptune will help you find some solutions almost by divine grace. Almost like you pray and the answer comes, or intuition comes to you what to do, and you'll be able to cope with those Saturnian, more harsh, humdrum problems of everyday reality in a more magical way, in a more gentle way, and you'll be able to forgive more, especially forgive parents and forgive people from your past if it's those degrees, because Saturn squares from the 4th house of the past, the family. And yes, there might be some problems there, but Neptune trining 22 to 25 degrees Sun, Moon, or Ascendant allows you to forgive and to let go and to be above those things. Also, you can do some spiritual advance a lot. If you're in any Neptunian career, it will go great. If you're in healing, in art, in music, in medical profession, in pharmaceutical, in anything to do with spirituality, you will your career, Neptune trine will go really well. If you invested in anything Neptunian, it will go very well, which is petrol, gas, Neptune stuff. What else is it? Drugs, pharmaceuticals, and so on. It can go very well, and water. But generally, there's this invisible Neptune is unconditional love that you can receive when you can feel to someone romantically or towards a child, or it can even indicate coming of a child for those degrees. Some very gentle, loving energy that connects you to higher vibrations, basically. More refined art, more refined forgiveness, kindness, love to others. And then the last group of Scorpios, if you're from 26 to 29 degrees Scorpio, 26, 27, 28, 29, you're going to have Pluto sextile from your third house here. Those 3 last degrees Scorpio, very empowering. You'd feel everything will go great with your career. If it's your sun, you can feel empowered. You can get all your plans done. You can get support from teammates, workmates, Pluto from the third house, from relatives, from people around your environment. You can, if it's your moon, there can be good psychological, stronger psychological realizations, empowering yourself psychologically, some woman helping you, deep emotional connections that are intense and sexual and more tantric with someone. Everything Plutonian will go great for you. And Plutonian is if you do any investigation, if you're in a battle or fight with someone, you can win. You can transform your appearance or your health in an easy way with willpower without it being too stressful for you. It's just this subtle psychological transformation that happens without disruption. And you're becoming very Scorpio, even more Scorpionic, some very intense sexual relationship possible for the moon or the ascendant in those degrees. That is positive. That is not going to be destructive and karmic, but kind of healing almost sexually. Very bonded, very merged. Very powerful partnership as well can be created if you're those degrees sun or moon, even ascendant, or even sun and moon. So they're helped with Pluto in a great way for empowerment, for strength, for some secrets that empower them, and some private information that empower them. That's about all of you Scorpios. I hope I covered most of the degrees. Some degrees obviously were not affected by anything, but the Saturn, Jupiter, and the nodes, they affect everyone this year. And you can, according to the houses that we talked, and Mars as well, everything we talked about, the Mars, you're going to feel it. A lot of things are happening. It's a very happening year. A lot of different themes happening. Hope this is helpful for you, and I will see you next year. Bye bye.